Today on the Manage Her podcast, we're talking about reinvention, resilience, and what it truly means to build the life on your own terms. My guest is a banker turned brand builder, author, podcast host, and creator of the Corporate Mom Movement, a woman who understands firsthand what it takes to navigate career pivots, single motherhood, financial leadership, and personal transformation. After experiencing major life shifts, she didn't shrink. She expanded. She stepped into visibility, built her platform, and began helping women think differently about wealth, work, and possibility. With a forthcoming children's book, a powerful memoir titled Living in the Black, and a growing voice in conversations around money and identity, she is helping shape how the next generation understands leadership at home and beyond. Please welcome Tiana Reeves to the Manager Podcast. Hi, honey. So nice to
Hi,
have you
Aimee.
here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I'm going to tell you that intro made me feel exhausted. I'm like, I do all of that? How?
It's 1 minute at a time as a mom, isn't it? It's like I feel like
hmm
we all hear our accomplishments and think, "I didn't do all that," but you did.
Yeah. Crazy to hear your resume just go, woo.
It's amazing what you can do when you're motivated. I feel like kids light a fire under our feet that we really didn't have as single women or with no children. And we
hmm
become moms and we have to step up and step in and really become.
Yeah, we definitely do. We do things that we didn't think were even possible.
I know. I was thinking about that this morning. I was thinking of how much the motherhood experience pushes our limitations as human beings. How you didn't think you could only get 2 hours of sleep for a month or 2 months or 3 months when your baby was newborn, but you actually
I
can,
know.
right?
Yeah, you actually can. And I don't ever want to do it again.
Yeah, no, I'm super glad I'm actually done finally. I still have a 3-year-old, Tiana.
Oh my goodness. I will be praying for you every night.
He's
But
a
I'm
good sleeper
sure he
though.
sleeps through the
He
night.
he
Yes.
does. He's a good thank the Lord. He's a good sleeper and he really always has been. But yeah, oh my gosh. So I need to learn all about you. So before the brand, the books, and the corporate mom movement, who were you when you were just trying to figure life out?
Yeah. So when I was in my 20s, I was fresh out of college and I had a 10-year plan. I was one of those people who are like, I already know what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. I'm going to get married, have fun, build a career, then have kids at the end of the 10 years because then, we'd be old at 30. And it was pregnancy that kind of derailed that. So at the time, my husband, who was at the time my boyfriend, and I had an unexpected pregnancy. And it was not a successful pregnancy. It was the first of many pregnancy losses, and it derailed my plans because where I thought I'm gonna have kids whenever I want to, it was like, no, no, you're not." And so then it made me question all sorts of things like, is there anything else in my plan that's flawed or that's gonna derail things? And so it was a challenge for me to go from, I have this meticulous plan to, okay, now what?
Oh, yeah, totally. Learning to be resilient in the face of actual life. I think when you're a little kid, you think things are going to be very different than the actual experience of living life as a human being on the planet Earth. You know, you're,
Mhm.
I have a friend who wrote a book and it's called Life is Written in Pencil. And it's kind of like, you do when you're a little kid, you think everything's written in Sharpie and, it's going to be this permanent thing and, there will be no changes made. But as you become a grown up, you realize it's actually written in pencil and there will be an A through Z plan.
Yeah. Is you if not, one's gonna get created for you.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about reinvention. And like many women experience a life event like a divorce or a layoff or a major identity shift. And that could either break them or build them. I've been through it myself. Many women experience a life event, a divorce, a layoff, a major identity shift that could either break them or build them. I know I went through this. So, what did that season demand of you, and who have you become to walk through it?
I went through it all. Divorce, I went through at least maybe 2 or 3 different layoffs in my career, and the biggest thing that I had to learn was that social norms don't define you.
Mhm.
If you let that hiccup that happens in life stop you and say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't do this perfectly," or "I didn't get picked," in the cut when there was a layoff, or, my marriage ended, I failed, then you'll start to get stuck in this rut. And trying to fit that narrative will make you feel anxious and depressed. But the reality is, no one is fitting that script perfectly. But when we have those moments happen, we're thinking, oh my gosh, we've just created the biggest faux pas ever.
Yeah, I remember that too. I'm divorced also, and I felt that societal pressure. I felt that internal failure, that judgment of myself instead of just experiencing what it was and taking that as a life lesson. Okay, so I didn't choose my partner that well. Maybe I didn't communicate well enough. I don't know. There was some systemic failure in this, but what can I learn from it? How can I do it better? That's what we have to do in life. Like, how can we adjust and conquer from our experiences and stop judging each other? Life happens. Life is messy and no one's
Mhm.
perfect. Yeah.
100%. There's a concept in agile methodology that says encourage your team to fail forward. So things are going to happen, but how do you become resilient and how do you grow from that hiccup that happened?
Yeah, I think my mom was like the master of this in my life, so I was very fortunate to have a mentor, my mother, who was constantly failing forward. It didn't matter what happened in her life, but it always somehow propelled her forward. Every time she failed, it moved her in the right direction. And it was neat to see the way that she would just kind of dust herself off, get back up, and keep going. She never got
Yeah,
down
that's
for
what we got
very
to do.
long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she cried in the closet for an hour, but then she got up.
That's what
Like,
I do.
she got up and she kept moving on, and I think that's it. I mean, who hasn't gone in the bathroom and had a good cry,
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you need a good cry and then you
You're
pick
not a real
yourself up.
adult unless you do.
That's right. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
need to give yourself time to process your emotions. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to have negative emotions and process those things. That's not something that we need to run away from either. I feel like in our society we've been running away from that stuff too. And maybe it's time that we can own that stuff a little bit more and be okay with the fact that we do have emotions and we learn from them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they're crucial, right? So you created the phrase the corporate mom. Corporate mom. What does that identity give women permission to stop apologizing for?
Well, first off, corporate mom came up because I created a TikTok handle during the pandemic so I could make TikTok videos with my niece. And after creating that and making a couple of videos, especially during the pandemic, you do a lot of scrolling, or we all did a lot of scrolling on social
Mhm.
media. And that's when I kind of really got involved with the beauty of social media, which was that you don't have to be invited to sit at the table. You can just pull up a chair. Different, yeah, different things were on my feed and things that were going on in the world. And I started to kind of share my thoughts or opinions or insight, some of it with some like goofy parodies, and then some of them with like some real heart to hearts. And social media actually made corporate mom the way that it is. People engaging on the posts, asking, what do you think about this? Or, oh my gosh, that's so funny. I relate to that. And I realized, oh my goodness, I'm contributing to this community, this platform, and I'm not alone. And there's other people who experience some of the same things. And it just kind of took off from there. A happy accident is what's his name? Bob. Oh gosh, the gosh that's the painter,
Ross, happy
Bob
little
Ross.
accidents.
Yeah, is a happy little accident.
Isn't that life? I love that. I know some of the biggest things in life are like just a little something. I was having a conversation with Steve Edwards of Good Day LA, and he said his name basically came from some producer guy who looked at him. He told him his name is Bob Schwartz, and he goes, "Well, what's your middle name?" He goes, "Edward." He goes, "What do you think about Steve Edwards?" He goes, "That's fine." And that's how he got his name, and that's been his name for 50 years.
Other people made it happen, not
Yeah, yeah,
necessarily
or it's
him,
just
and
like
that's
this
life.
instantaneous decision sometimes, and then you create an identity, and then there it is, and you are corporate
Yeah,
mom, there you are, corporate mom, Tiana Reeves.
exactly.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So why do you think ambition in mothers still makes some people uncomfortable?
I think it makes people feel uncomfortable because the American workplace doesn't really give space for women to choose motherhood and like have that work-life balance. Today, when companies will do things like allow a parent to volunteer at their kid's school or take time off without clocking out for vacation hours, it's seen as progressive. It's not seen as the normal thing to do. We're not there yet. And our society will say things like, oh, it's so great. Dad is here at the doctor's office, but it's shameful if mom isn't. And so when we have those different things that happen in our society, mothers aren't encouraged to be leaders in the workplace because if they are performing in the workplace, they're being shunned for not leading their home. So we need to celebrate women who take on more. We need to say, you know what, that is great that you are working at home and that you're working outside your home and that you're at your kid's school. Like, oh my goodness, you're such a powerhouse, like uplifting that and not just treating it as, oh, well, you're doing what you're supposed to do, or you better take on all this. Otherwise, what kind of a woman are you?
Yeah, it's so the balance between the work-life balance for the modern mother is something that is it needs a little work, I think, and we as women need to cut each other a little bit of slack too and give each other some love and respect on how what a hard job it is to be a mom and to be a working mom. Being a mom alone, just being a stay-at-home mom is a hard job. But being a work mom and you still have to do the home stuff too. It's a lot.
Yes,
It's like if we could all just give each other a little bit of grace, while we get
exactly.
through this transition. I think we're making a transition as women right now. I really do. And I think we're trying to find a better balance for our families and for ourselves. But I think I do. I really feel like we're in a transitional and pivotal moment in human civilization for women right now.
Absolutely. We need to normalize. It's great you fed your kids, even though it was microwave chicken nuggets. You fed them, you know?
They did eat. I know. And I'm always talking to my other moms, like, how can we do this better? How can we support each other? Is there a way that we could create a group of working moms or even maybe some moms that are stay at home moms that we all figure out one night a week that one mom cooks for maybe 4 or 5 people? And then, is there a way, could we be doing this better? Could we be cooperating more? Is there a way to lighten this load for women that we could help each other out? That's what I'm
Yeah.
one of my big questions to women in
I love
general.
that, Amy, like,
Yeah.
giving women permission to celebrate. You cooked at least one meal, or,
Yes.
for the moms who say, "I wanna do Blue Apron or fresh," we'll just stick with Blue Apron because I can't remember the other
Yeah,
one. For the
totally,
moms
all
who
the
order
meal
from Blue
preps.
Apron.
Yeah,
Yeah, that,
yeah,
hey, at least you thought enough to prep and you're cooking something together and maybe you're bringing your kids in the kitchen. That's good. You don't have to cook every day. And even for the moms who work at home as, a stay-at-home mom, you're busy too. So even if you don't cook every night, that doesn't mean that you're not meeting the expectations of a stay-at-home mom.
yeah, totally, and we just
Yeah,
need to give each other a little more grace, and I look forward to women coming together again. I feel like we were really pushed into these isolated little groups of, the nuclear family group. And I just don't think that that is working for us. I think that we are burnt out and stressed out because we are trying to do too much all by ourselves. I think that there's could be so much more joy and happiness for us and our families if we figure out how to work together, especially us working moms. I really think that we could figure out a way to do this better. And I feel like with technology, we'll figure it out. We'll have an app for it.
absolutely.
I do. I'm
Yeah.
calling on a woman to figure this out. Do you think okay, why are women still taught to whisper about money? And what changes in a woman when she finally becomes financially confident?
There's 2 things that kinda come to mind when I think about women and money. So the first part is when you're a young woman, and you're dating and you're thinking about heterosexual relationships, we are taught that men should be the provider and that you find a man who is set up to be a provider and help them to grow in that. And then you also have, like, the women's movement where you are able to be educated and you're able to be in the workplace. And then I'll talk a little bit about Black culture because in Black culture, there's a big emphasis on being an independent woman. There's an old rap song back from, I think it was like in the 2000s, and it was like Indepen. I don't know if you heard it, but anyway, it
I
spells out
remember it.
independent. Okay,
Yes.
awesome, awesome. Okay, those that are in my age group, y'all know. And it's about being a woman and having your own job and having your own house and having your own money and that you are this independent woman. And it ended up shifting to being, oh, well, you're one of those independent women. You can't really be a wife, or you really can't be in that family nucleus because independent women, they just don't function that way, is kind of how it's been framed up. Now there's another conflict where the man's supposed to be the provider. How do you get into a heterosexual relationship with a man if he's not being led to provide because you've built yourself up this much? So sometimes we have to shrink ourselves and not talk about those things so that way, he can feel strong and powerful and confident as a provider. But providing isn't just financially, there's other ways that he can be a provider. But I think until we have that culture shift, to be comfortable in different norms, to say you can still be in your femininity and your masculinity, and this is how we'll do it for our family, I think we'll still see women just be more quieter about what they do and how they do it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that I think culture is so important, and as we move forward through this transitional phase, I feel like communication is gonna be just such a big part of how we shift culture. It's having conversations like this that help the culture shift. Actually, our viewers are equally male and female, which I think is very interesting. So, it's funny that, I think men are just as curious about how women are feeling in this time, in this shift, as we are becoming more aware of the situation that we are now in. We made this shift into being this working mom shift. Our moms probably your mom made this shift, right? My mom too.
Mhm.
My grandmother was a stay-at-home mom, and then my mom was the first working mom in our generation. And so it's new. It's new. Like it's relatively generationally new for us to be in this position. So of course we went through a failure, like this really wasn't working with our marriages. It really wasn't working in our how do we redefine our roles in our partnerships? I like to think of
Mhm.
it more as a partnership now, because it's like we're partners. We are partners in the household. We're partners in the economic and financial side of things in the businesses. We're in a partnership. So how do we share ownership within that partnership? In all of the different realms so that everybody
Yeah.
feels included. That's the
Yeah,
tricky.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, that's the
That is the
tricky
tricky
bit.
part.
That's the tricky
We're
part.
changing things one relationship at a time.
It really honestly, I think that's kind of how it happens, though. I mean, honestly, I think that's all you can do. It will change one relationship at a time, one conversation at a time, becoming aware of maybe even just like a shift of the language around things, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
language shifts, the neurolinguistics of within our relationships, the words we use. I love this Dr. Danielle Dowling was the one instead of like, "Could you help me with bath time?" She's like, "How about you tell your husband, could you own bath time?" And I'm like, "Dang,
Mm.
girl, I like that because it
Yeah.
gives him ownership and he doesn't have to ask me like, what shampoo do I use? Where's their hairbrush?
Yeah.
Do
You're
I
the
need to
owner
brush
of
your
it. You're
teeth? You're owning it."
CEO of hair washing.
I think it's one conversation at a time, and it really is, I think, from as the all of the women that are doing this work right now, I have so many of them who've been on my show. It's a collective movement. We're all trying to do it better. We're all trying to figure it
Mhm.
out. And I love, love, love this movement of women in leadership because it's not just how we lead at work, it's how we lead in life so that we
Yes.
can all feel good about what we're doing and feel like we're being successful and balanced in all of the different aspects of our life. So, what was in order for you to make that shift as a young woman, what was one financial belief that you had to unlearn to step into your power?
That you need to make a lot of money to be rich.
Oh, yes.
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 That or that your partner has to make a lot of money in order to be rich. I think rich is deeper than that. It's
Yes.
the joy and the peace that you have in your household. It's the memories that you make. Don't get me wrong, money is important. Otherwise, you're going to be in a cardboard box and happy. But you can also make different changes and sacrifices in order to compensate if the money's just not all there.
Totally.
You can make
Peace.
it happen.
My mother used to say, "I'd rather have beans and peace than steak and aggravation."
That's a mouthful, but my goodness, how profound.
But it's so true. There's no monetary value for peace. You can't buy it.
No.
It's one of those things. And sometimes you do sacrifice money for peace in your household.
Yes.
And if you
Yes, you do.
become aware of it and see how you can shift back into finding peace in your household because it's worth way more than gold.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I love that. Your children's book centers on a child seeing their mother as a superhero. Do you think mothers underestimate how closely their children are watching them lead?
Yeah, absolutely. Because kids aren't saturated in those social norms I was talking about earlier when they're little. They just become used to seeing whatever that happens in their household. And if they see their moms doing it all, they're like, That's what moms do." And so moms oftentimes stop celebrating the things that they do because they don't feel like that they did anything that's valuable or that their kids even care. Trust me, your kids care. That's why your kids go ask mom for everything first, because they know mom is leading and getting things done. If you ask dad, "Hey, can I have ice cream?" It may be like 24, 48 hours before you get the ice cream, but mom's gonna be like, "Okay."
Or dad might go,
So,
"Go
yeah.
ask your mom."
Oh, that too. Like, well, I don't know. She didn't tell me to own that. She told me to own bath time, not ice
But
cream.
I do
So
not own ice cream.
it's okay, guys,
Absolutely.
if you're listening, just own the ice cream and just say, I made an executive decision. I'm so sorry we did not convene on a meeting before I made this decision.
I like that. Yeah, I think it's okay for you guys to own some stuff. Just be like, "I decided to own this for us because I thought this would be helpful for you."
Absolutely. It's just ice cream. We'll be fine.
It's just ice cream. It will be okay. Totally. I
Yes.
agree with you. I think you growing up with my mom was such a superhero, honestly. She was, entrepreneur of the year in 1988, and I used to I'd get up at 5:30 in the morning just to watch her put her makeup on before she went to work. I just was so in awe of her. She was so beautiful and powerful, and I really looked up to her so much, and she was such a tremendous role model for work ethic, almost to the point of, being over like a workaholic, which I did learn from my mother, but I've gotten way better at it, in my I'd say like around 35, I made the shift out of workaholism and shifted
Yeah.
into a little more balance. But it's one of those things, moms are amazing and your kids are watching you and they do think you're awesome. And so, man, pat yourself on the back. You're doing great.
Yeah, exactly. And thinking of memories with mom, my biggest memory of my mom is just like listening to her on the phone, talking to friends or family, and just listening to the sound of her voice, which is interesting because my mom does not think that she's a very talkative person. My mom's a police officer. So she's like, I'm not here to conversate. I'm here to just get things done. But she's had to learn over the years, to be more of that friendly, engaging leader in the community. And then my mom, she also adopted and fostered a number of kids, and so she has a tremendous heart, and through my mom, I've seen the importance of, the balance of love and order. Those are the things that we end up picking up from our moms is whatever is gets modeled, that becomes our being, so you are a superhero because you change your kids' lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mama is the superhero. I love that. Oh, your mom sounds like such an amazing person. Oh, I want to
She is
meet
she's
her.
quite the stickler though, but I love her.
Well, I can only imagine. Actually, I can't imagine having a police officer as a mother. I think that
Oh,
would have been a
so
very
many
difficult one for me.
stories.
Yeah, I was,
Oh, especially when I got to the dating age.
oh, right?
Yeah.
I probably coulda used a little more of authoritarian at that age, though. That probably would have been good for me. Although my husband dated me when I was 14 and he was 17. As soon as he turned 18, he dumped me because he was afraid of my mother.
Like, nope, not dealing with that.
He's like he was like, "No, no, no." At that point by that time, my mom had already gone to law school. Now she's a lawyer. He's like, no,
Yeah.
no."
Yep, yep.
Absolutely not. So tell me, what
Yes.
does financial literacy look like inside your home? And how early do you think these conversations should begin with our kids?
We should start them early. We should make them natural. My kids are age 7 and 9, and they get an allowance. They've received an allowance for, I would say, probably about 2 or 3 years now, and we practice Dave Ramsey. They have, like, these little piggy banks or this one piggy bank, and it's split into 3 quadrants or three portions because a quadrant is 4. Anyway, see, my math is off. But nonetheless, they have a bucket for savings, a bucket for giving, and a bucket for spending. And they buy their own gifts for their friends. So if they want to go to a birthday party, we don't go empty-handed. That's, socially incorrect. So you go to a birthday party, you bring a gift. Where's your money? Let's go shopping for a gift. They buy toys that they want. And if they want like super expensive toys, I'm kind of nice. Like, okay, well, if you save up half, I'll pay the other half. And so it gives them a sense of accomplishment that, oh, I saved up money for this toy. There's one toy that my son bought and he was 7, I want to say, when he bought it. It was $100 and he was so proud of himself for saving $100. And he told everyone he knew, even strangers on the street, I saved $100 and I bought this toy by myself. But it just gave him a sense of pride. And I think that's what's important, to give your kids that confidence and that positive relationship with money. Now they're starting to learn about taxes, mainly sales tax, like, oh, it says $27.99. There's a little bit of extra money and this is what it's for. And they're learning about investing, so that way there's stocks and bonds and mutual funds, but on a kid's level. And you really want to have your kids have a positive relationship with money versus when they become an adult and they're 18 years old and they have their minimum wage job and they feel like there's not enough money and money's now the evil thing that keeps them from things. No, teach them money makes things happen. We just have to learn how to work with money instead of have money work against us.
Oh, I love that, Tiana. That's such an important skill. My parents gave me an allowance when I was little. They must have started when I was like about 4 or 5. And I remember the same feeling, saving up. I'd get $3 a week and I would have to save up for a month to get a My Little Pony. And I'd save up. I'd save up for a month. My dad would take me to the toy store. I'd get a new My Little Pony. And that feeling of being able to buy
Mhm.
your own thing, it really stuck with me, and I really do think that's one of those core values, one of those things that I'm so grateful that my parents gave me that education and money, and it's one of the things I need to do more with my children. Definitely, you're sparking my wheels. I'm like, "Oh, my
Yeah,
little."
there you go.
Yes, I'm like
It's so empowering. Just
Yeah.
yesterday, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. I took my kids to Starbucks and I was like, "You can get a treat." And then my son goes, "Well, I want 2." And I was like, "Well, I'm only gonna buy 1." He goes, "I have money." So he was
Nice.
so happy to buy 2 slices of cake, that he didn't need, but nonetheless, it was his money and he was happy to be able to do something extra for himself.
That's so good. Yeah, it's funny. It's the little things because I don't know. We get so busy as grown adults, as parents. We feel so busy that we forget that our home is supposed to be another learn. It's not. They're not just learning at school. They're learning at home too. And this is
Mhm.
teaching our kids financial literacy is something that they're not getting at school. It's one of those things that if we're not teaching it at home, they're really not going to get it. So as moms, if we're going to do this, like let's do this. Let's not have adult children that don't know how to make money work for them because we never taught them about it when they were little
Right.
and then
Yeah.
blame them for it. It's like, yeah, it's so important that we teach our kids how to save, how to spend, how to give, how to use money,
Yeah.
how to make money benefit them, how to get money to work for you. I've always loved that. Like, I love the idea of planting money as seeds and growing the trees and eating the fruit rather than
Yes.
eating the seeds. Don't eat the seeds, guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My
Mhm.
daughter struggles with that. She constantly, as soon as it touches her hand, she wants to spend it. But we're
Yeah.
getting there. We're getting
Yeah. Yeah,
there.
it's one of those things. It really is, and it's every kid. I have one just like that. I know my 14-year-old just loves to spend money. He's just always looking
Mhm.
at like, what's the next thing I'm gonna get? And then I have another kid that is the super saver. And Julian, that kid won't spend. He still has the money that he got as a little kid from Christmas.
Isn't that amazing how you end up raising kids in the same household and they can be totally different?
Yeah,
So weird.
totally different, same house. Same
Yes.
house. And that yeah, I actually feel like Daniel's pretty much the same way too. He's a super saver too. He'd much rather have money than have stuff. And that's how I've
Yeah.
always kind of been the same way. I'd much rather have money than have stuff. I'm like, This stuff, you like it for a little while, but
Yeah.
then you end up giving it away or ends up going, getting hauled away or thrown away. And
Yeah.
so for me, I'm like, oh, but I still have that money. No.
Well, I started off as a spender, so I totally relate to my daughter, and I'm like, "No, just trust me on this. Just save, baby."
Save, baby. I mean, even just a little, getting her to save just a
Yeah.
portion of it, it's like, okay, that's a win.
Yes.
That's a
It
win.
is a win.
That's a
Yes.
win. It's so good that she's learning so young because otherwise, yeah, you fall into all these money stories. I think
Yeah.
Stephanie Gutman, who's another episode on mine, she talks about the money stories. And you actually develop your money story by the time you're 8 years old.
Oh, wow. I can believe
Yeah.
it, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh." So, yeah, everybody has a different story about money. Some people, "Oh, as soon I deserve to spend this money. I worked hard for it." Or, "Money is evil. I need to give it away," kind of thing.
Yes.
Or there's like
Yes.
I think there's 4
There's
different
all
money
these different
stories.
things.
Yeah, but it's just so interesting, how we develop as human beings, all of our different personalities, all the things we carry into life, and how our parents influence that stuff too. Like
Yes, they do.
mamas, you are superheroes. You're doing amazing work. You are, all you corporate moms out there, we see you and we're gonna give you a little love right now.
Absolutely.
So, about your corporate identity and self worth, you've spoken about refusing to be positioned as token. I get that. That
Mm.
requires enormous self trust. How did you know your value early enough to say no?
Yeah, so Amy, you and I talked about this in
Hmm.
depth offline, that it's definitely a struggle for individuals who may not fit whatever that look is in their corporate environment. Whether it's you're in a predominantly Black organization and you are the few non-Black, or vice versa. So it happens anywhere. And for me and my experience and my journey, it was my peers who said to me, "You know what? You could do that. I've seen you do that." Or you give skills that kind of lean into that. I didn't necessarily see it in myself. I felt like I was having major imposter syndrome and I'm just roaming around pretending to be whatever. And it wasn't until other people said, "You do know and understand process improvement. You should get your Six Sigma black belt. Project management, you should go get your PMP." Those individuals just planting those little seeds, as we talked about. So just like there's seeds with money, there's seeds with aspirations and growth and goals. I was like, well, let me see. Can I? And I amazed myself. And the more you kind of build up that positive confidence in what you see in yourself, then you start to say, no, I know my worth is here. It's unfortunate that this organization maybe either can't afford me and my skill set, not from a monetary perspective, but maybe from a passion or a thought leadership. And I need to go where that's going to be valuable. It takes time. So if someone's listening to this and they feel like I am an imposter, I don't know where I belong. You're not an imposter. You just haven't found your purpose yet. And as soon as you do, it's going to feel so clear and so obvious. And you'll be able to know this is where my value is, either monetarily or with the title or with the functions or the things that I do every day. This is where I'm meant to be. And it'll feel so comfortable.
I love that. Purpose is everything. Once you find your purpose, it really is such a powerful thing to gosh, and it's not something you find in your 20s necessarily. Sometimes not
Hmm.
something you find in your 30s. Sometimes it's not sometimes you got to wait until you're 40 or 50 or 60 to find your purpose, but you will.
Yep,
And you
you
just got
will.
you will, you will. It might not be a right away thing, but it's out there and everybody has a purpose and it's for all of us leaning into, you know, finding your purpose. Do you have any good advice for anybody who's like, I'm wandering around lost. How can I help find my purpose?
I would say just start with the things that you enjoy. Write down the things that you like and start doing those things. And this one you gotta sit down for. It may be something that's not even paying you any money yet. If you find that thing that you enjoy, you will surround yourself with a network of other people that also enjoy it, and even say to them, "Hey, I really like this, but I gotta eat, I gotta put a roof over my head," and they can kinda help give you that innovative idea to say, "Well, you can actually go this location and they're hiring for this or they're hiring for that, or have you considered a career in XYZ?" And then you'll find your passion. And when you do what you love, you will make more money than you could ever imagine because you're doing it from I love this, and can you imagine I actually get paid for it? So, yeah, start with the things that you like. Doesn't matter if it makes you money, just like it first.
I love that advice, Tiana. That is gold. If someone were narrating your life, what would they say was the plot twist that changed everything?
Oh, the plot twist that changed everything. I'm gonna say it's when I got my PMP certification. Now, not because
Nice.
I got the certification.
And
It's
that's
deeper than
project
that.
manager, right?
It's a project manager. It's a certified project manager professional.
Nice.
It's deeper than that because at the time that I got my certification, there was a lot going on in my personal life. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression because I just had my daughter a few years before that. So I had two kids that were in daycare. My husband at the time, he had lost his support system. So two of the people who had raised him had passed away within 6 months. And he was going through his own emotional journey, and I couldn't even be there for him because I wasn't even focused enough to do it. There were things that were happening at work where, there was a new leader that I got put under a corporate structure, and as with any new leader, they like to bring on their team, they like to bring on their people, and so they were reallocating the work so that way their people kind of got a lot more visibility, and so now I'm doubting myself even more, and I just felt like I was mentally spiraling, and so I felt like I needed to do something to try to get myself out of this rut that I felt like that was shortly coming. And so I started studying for my PMP, and remarkably, I studied and took the exam, passed the first time within 6 weeks. Now, for those that
Nice.
are unfamiliar with this
That's
exam,
awesome.
it is yeah, it's very common for people to study for about a year and then pass. And so it just felt like a really weird thing that I kind of grasped it so quickly and pass. So I would not advise people to just go shoot and take this test after 6 weeks. But if you feel confident, go do it. Don't let me be the person to talk you down. Because there were a lot of people who were like, "Don't do it. You're gonna waste your money." But it wasn't the exam, like I said, it was everything that was going on around me that said, "You can obviously do more than what you realize. Even though you have all of these things going on with you internally and externally, you can do more. So stop beating yourself up and start finding some solutions for yourself."
I love that. Yeah, it's amazing. I feel like sometimes it's, God, the universe, life itself puts us in extremely stressful positions. But when we're
Mhm.
in those extremely stressful positions, that's when we find our deepest personal growth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's like, if when you're comfortable, you stay in the same spot. But when you're uncomfortable, that's when we change things. So it's
Yeah.
like,
It's that being uncomfortable for sure. That's actually what I was thinking of was being uncomfortable. It makes you have to it's like sitting on an uncomfortable stool, like, physically,
Mhm.
and you're like, you're not gonna just keep sitting there and your butt hurts. You're gonna shift your butt in the chair to get more comfortable. And so that's what life does. It makes you adjust on the bar stool.
It really does. I know, and sometimes it's really extreme. Like having
Yes.
2 small children and, all of these things all at once. Yeah, and I feel you. I know. That's when I've made my biggest growth in my life has been in times of extreme stress and thinking,
Mhm.
how can I do all of this? How is it even
Yeah.
possible? This isn't possible, but it's amazing what women are capable of. The amount of the how we can compartmentalize our stress, how we still show up for our children, how we still show up for our spouses and our jobs, even under the hardest of circumstances. It really is impressive. I'm impressed with
It
women.
is. Yeah. Me
I
too.
really am. I'm impressed. So what is the cost to a woman's life of staying financially dependent?
That one is a tricky one to answer. So I'm going to talk about my own life. And the question that you had kind of said rhetorically a few moments ago, like, how do we do it all? That's actually what prompted me to write my memoir, Life in the Black, which talks about, my journey as being an African American woman in the workplace and the different struggles with pregnancy loss and then going through divorce and being financially independent. So it covers all that. So going back to your question, the cost is tricky because I paid a cost, but I ended up gaining so much that I didn't necessarily expect to do. So after I passed that PMP exam, which was my plot twist, but I didn't realize it was my plot twist, I had an awesome job offer come up my way, like within about 30, 60 days of me passing it. I took the job because it's going to open up a lot of doors for myself and the kids, but it actually ended up closing a door to my marriage.
Mm.
It was really hard on our relationship because my ex-husband was still battling with things, and me taking on this role, he really wasn't sure where he fit in. And so it started to kind of stack up issues between us. And in accounting, there's a saying, for every credit, there's a debit. And so sometimes you have to lose something to gain something. But although the divorce was sad, it was absolutely needed because we were in a different season
Mhm.
and all of that. So shortly after the divorce, all these doors started opening up. My career, different opportunities, different people I was connecting with, things for my kids, financial independence. Because one of the first things was, okay, I'm used to being in a dual income household. How on earth am I going to support myself in a single income and have the things that I like to have? Because remember, I said, I save now, but I like to spend. So you can't spend sometimes the same way. So things were just happening where it's like, oh no, you don't have to give that up. Like all these blessings is just coming out of nowhere. And then I ended up meeting someone romantically who had the same journey that I did, heavy in a career, previously married, have kids. And after years of dating, we're getting married next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Super exciting. But the biggest thing is I feel like that we complement each other very well because we understand some of our past history and chapters, and that it really kind of only took someone who had an experience or journey as unique as his or as mine for us to be able to make each other better,
Mhm.
make each other emotionally mature, bring in that peace. That's kind of the start of the plot twist. Like it was that. So although it cost me all these changes, it was a small cost to gain so much on the other side of things.
Right? It's like anytime you feel like you are failing or you're not doing it right, you have to remember you are just becoming. You are becoming.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are in the
Yeah.
process of becoming, and we really are as women, we are becoming. Through our child rearing years, we're so becoming. We're becoming these strong, amazing women. This experience of motherhood really it's like it forges us in a fire that makes us really know who we are because our children reflect us back to us, don't they?
Mhm.
And then our
They
partners do
do.
too. And as I feel like as our children really teach us who we are, it's easier for us to choose a partner for ourselves because we really do know who we are and what our absolute, where our absolute boundaries are. This
Yes.
is an absolute must have. This is negotiable.
Mhm.
We know
Yeah.
as we become the women that we are becoming, we become more and more aware of who we are and what we need in life and how to communicate that.
Yes, and we start
Yeah.
bringing in factors that complement that, whether it's the career choice or the
Yes.
partner. So if you're getting remarried, you're gonna pick differently because you're like, "Hey, these are things that are important, and I need you to have these things important to you too." So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
totally. When I knew in my second marriage, I knew I had needed to marry somebody who was as talented in business as I was. Somebody who wouldn't be afraid to go into entrepreneurship. And I was so glad when my husband and we'd known each other since we were little kids, but when we always say like God hooked us up. When we got hooked up out of the blue, when I was single, it was between, right after my first marriage. And to me, it was a no brainer. I'm like, yeah, he can handle this. He can
Yes.
absolutely handle this because I need somebody who can be on this journey with me. I'm an entrepreneur and it's a whole different ride than, having that 9 to 5 job. It's a
Yes.
whole different ride, and I need somebody who could be okay hopping on the wild bull with me of entrepreneurship, and yeah, I'm just so glad that I picked him. I really am. Even though we've been through so many things together, we've grown so much as people over the last 14 years. I'm so grateful that, he has become as much as I have become. we've both really changed and grown and become amazing grown-ups together.
Yes. It's funny, when you said that, it made me think about something that I say to other people. When you're younger, you pick your relationships, you pick who you're dating or who you marry, kinda like this proximity thing, like, "Oh, we're in the same class together, and so we go to the same school, and so that's gonna be my boyfriend or girlfriend." But when you become older and you're dating, it's like you're interviewing someone who is going to be an employee of your enterprises. So you are going to be an employee of Aimee Enterprises. Do you match this job description? Are you the best person for the role? Do you also support the vision of the organization? Come aboard. You've now become a partner, and let's push this organization forward.
Absolutely. My mother always said marriage is a merger. It's a merger of
It
two
is.
companies. It really is. So it's like we merge our companies. We really do when we
Yeah,
marry. We
you
really
do.
we're merging companies, and there's so many aspects that go into it because honestly, a household and a family really is its own little company. It really is. You've
Yes.
got your own you've got a financial ecosystem, you've got all your systems and processes and procedures, you've got all of the people that are within, whether they're family, nannies, gardeners, all these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, there needs to be a good match with your corporate cultures before you merge
Yes.
companies, i.e.
Absolutely.
get married.
Otherwise, it's gonna fall apart. You're gonna be
Yes.
arguing at every board meeting.
Exactly. It really is. And it's like when you get divorced, it's like you're divesting companies, there and
Yes.
it really is. And the hardest part of divorce isn't really even the emotional part. I mean, the emotional part is the saddest part, but the hardest
Yeah.
part of divorce is usually the financial stuff. It's because it's set up because it really is a corporate merger, but we don't treat it that way. And
No.
then when we divest, there's all of the financial stuff that needs to be, all the financial matters that need to be taken care of. And I felt like that was, when I went through my divorce, I felt like, oh, wow, this is very interesting from like as a businesswoman looking at this from like sort of an outside perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they even have to draw up a contract just like whenever you
Yes.
spin off from an organization, so
Yeah,
yeah,
a
you get your
contract in, a
divorce decree.
contract out, both ways,
Yep,
it
yep.
really is. So I'm
Although the
glad.
divorce decree, that's, like,
Yes.
over documented, like, how come you just get 1 page for a marriage license, but 144 for your divorce? It's insane.
Exactly. It's much easier to get merged than it is to divest your companies, just so you know, ladies.
Yes.
So merge wisely.
Yes.
It's really
Or be
I'm
prepared
excited.
to read a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm happy that you found somebody who can make you happy, who is your person, who is a good fit for your,
Thank you,
for your
same for you
company.
too. And hopefully this gives hope to someone else who's like, "Oh my gosh, I know this isn't a peaceful place for me, but I can't do something else." Yes, you can. Yes, you
Yes.
can. You can have peace. You deserve peace.
You do deserve peace. You are worthy of peace. You really are. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
getting that place of like, am I worthy? Yes, you are, mama. I'm telling you right now, if you're listening to this right now, you are
Yes.
worthy of peace. Find it. You get
Yes.
it. Go get it, girl. Go get peace.
100.
Yeah. Peace is the best, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yes.
Oh, we could
Of
make a
all
whole segment on
of
peace.
all the things, I know. Peace is like one of those things that it can be elusive in your life. You can have all the other aspects going, You can have your success going, you can have, all these other aspects of your life going, and if you don't have that peace, you know it. You can feel
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things I've recently just fallen into the most deepest peace within our marriage, within our house, within like there's something just clicked into this place of peace recently, this year in 2026. And I'm like, he looked at me and he goes, there's just so much peace. And I'm like, yeah,
I love
yes,
that.
yes. Because you can have
Yeah.
money and not have peace. I've seen it. I
No.
saw it. I grew up in a
Oh, yeah.
neighborhood with all these fancy people and they had so much money and they had no peace at all.
No.
Yeah.
Cold rooms in separate parts of the house, separate vacations, not doing stuff together. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
fear of everything and
Yes.
everyone, and
Yes.
feeling in that deep isolation. I mean, I never knew peace really. I never saw happy people until I was 17 and I went to Costa Rica. And I lived in this little village where there was one television in a cantina and we only had electricity at night. And I have never met happier people in my life. And I thought to myself, you guys don't even have hot running water. How are you guys so happy? What in the world is going on? Because,
Yeah.
growing up in California, I was always taught, you got to make that money. You're going to be happy,
Yes.
make that money, go get that money, get that Ferrari, you're going to be a happy
Yeah,
person. And
exactly.
I knew the people with the Ferraris and they weren't that happy. And I knew the people with the money and they weren't that happy. And I went to Costa Rica where all these people with really it just enough. And man, they were freaking
Yeah.
happy and they had
Yeah.
peace. They had the beans and
Yes.
peace right there. That was beans and
There
peace.
you
I was like,
go.
hell yeah, beans and
Exactly.
peace. I'll take it.
And
And
that's the whole theme of this episode is like
yeah.
the money does not equal the happiness. It's happiness. And then if you have enough happiness, you will have enough money to sustain what you need.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Find your happy, find your purpose. The money will come, the success will come, Don't chase the money. If you're chasing the money, you'll always be chasing the money.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Oh, babe, you're the best. So, rapid fire questions. Here we go. Finish these
Let's go.
sentences. Power is.
Confidence.
Yes. Wealth is.
Happiness.
Yes. Motherhood taught me.
Ooh, ooh. Motherhood taught me to broaden my horizons and be open-minded.
I love that. The corporate world misunderstood.
The value of people.
Yes. I want my children to remember me as.
A model that you can do anything that your heart desires.
Yes, I love it. Yay, Tiana. Oh my gosh. So today's conversation is a reminder that women are allowed to reinvent themselves not once, but as many times as their lives require. Whether you're building a career, raising children, healing from change, or stepping into your financial power, your story is still being written. Sometimes the boldest thing a woman can do is decide she is not starting over. She is starting wiser. Tiana, thank you for reminding us that leadership begins at home, wealth begins with belief, and reinvention is always available. And to our listeners, keep managing your life, your leadership, and your legacy. Tiana, where can they find you?
Ooh, you can find me at my website, which is innovated.com. I'll send it to Aimee so that way she can put in the show
Yeah.
notes. That's the fastest way to connect with me on any of the projects that I have going on.
Nice. Tell us about your new book and where we can get it.
My new book is called Shh, My Mommy's a Superhero, and it celebrates the everyday things that moms do that are seen as extraordinary in the eyes of their kids. You can find it on Amazon. You can go ahead and get it on pre-order, and the live date will be April 2026.
And on social?
Ooh, on social media, oh my goodness, there's a list. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, but if you go to my website, you will see the link to all of my socials so that way you can find the media that you like to be on the most.
Perfect. And you are at Corporate Mom?
Yes.
Cool. At Corporate Mom, all of the places. Thanks, Tiana, so much. And if you guys like this episode and you're enjoying The Manager, if you could do me a favor, just subscribe, leave me a review. I would appreciate it so much. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. I don't want to sell you anything. If you could help a sister out, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye, girls. See you next week.